on MTG launch from Grand Prix Santa Clara.
Hello and welcome to coverage of round 2 here at Grand Prix Santa Clara. Marie Bartholdi in the booth, joined by expert Jacob Van Lunen and Rich Hagan along for the ride. And let's take a look at our teams down there in our feature match area. Matt Nass, Sam Pardee, and Jacob Wilson versus the team of Bradley-Heninger and Healey. And of course, as we've been saying early, Matt Nass is the player on Standard. Table B is Modern with Sam Pardee, and Jacob Wilson will be our Legacy player in this matchup. But of course, here we are, starting on Modern.
Right, and Jake, already the very first card out of the gates, it's not been played, it's been suspended, it's Search for Tomorrow, and you almost instantly know what's going on from Heninger.
Yeah, Heninger is, again, a Titan Shift deck. We know how strong this deck is. It was a mirror match final at the last major Modern tournament that we watched here. It's just, this is a deck that's going to try to kill people by getting 7 lands into play, casting Scape Shift, and dealing the opponent 18 points of damage.
And we also have a pretty good idea of what Sam Pardee is on as well over on that side of the table. Tron.
From the looks of Sam Pardee's deck list, he's actually an Eldrazi Tron deck, though.
Excellent.
So not quite as soft to the Scape Shift strategy as other versions of Tron may be here.
And he also has a way to search for mana on the table, same as Heninger there with an Expedition map.
So worth noting about Sam Pardee, I believe he may be the most feared Modern player in the world.
Really?
He is unstoppable in this format. His win percentage when you look at Modern events is just not even in the realm of reasonable.
All right, and you can see a card here in play from Jason, which is going to change his Scape Shift math a little bit as well.
Yeah, so this is a Prismatic Omen. Now, what this card does for Heninger is it makes all of his lands have all basic land types. So now, instead of him needing 7 lands in play for him to cast that Scape Shift and deal 18 damage, he would only need 6 lands in play because the Valakuts that he's searching up are mountains themselves. And in doing so, he could search for 4 Valakuts and 2 mountains, and then he's dealing 4 times 3 times 6 damage to the opponent, and that's a lot.
Get your calculator out. 1 Valakut, the Mountain Pinnacle, already in play there for Jason as well. We saw a Warping Whale the other turn there from Sam Pardee, which is going to counter-target sorcery spell. Another Expedition map here. Not a card you usually see in a main deck. Sideboard option for a lot of plans there. Lightning Bolt from Jason. Right to Pardee's face. And he'll pass the turn back. Sam's going to take a look at that map. Find what he needs. He's got a mine there.
So important to note, this is one of the ways in which Prismatic Omen is a win condition in of itself. Because Heninger has that Prismatic Omen in play, those 2 Valakuts in play mean that every land that he plays beyond the 5th represents 6 damage. Now, when you're playing a deck where the deck is just a pile of ramp spells and lands, that ends games very, very fast.
Yeah, are you getting nervous if you're in Pardee's seat right now?
Oh, absolutely. I'm really scared. Even with, a card like Ghost Quarter, that's not going to be enough here.
Of course, we've got Wasteland and Legacy running around on these tables. Ghost Quarter is the best we can do here in Modern.
Yeah, in Modern, people like to build their own Wasteland via Leonin Arbiter
Yes.
and Ghost Quarter.
Reality Smasher is going to smash in here for Sam Pardee, dealing 5, but the clock is massively ticking. Farseek from Jason. Putting the sweat on Pardee, I'm sure.
Is it too early in the year to do the boom, shake, shake, shake the room thing, for the Scape Shift countdown?
It's never too early,
It's never
Rich.
too early. I think that's a year-round celebratory tradition.
I'm basically asking, you're ready for this?
Always ready.
So as we talked about before, because of that prismatic omen, Heninger searching his library for that land with the Farseek, that represents 6 damage. He gets 2 Valakut the Molten Pinnacle triggers here.
There's a power plan in play for Pardee. Tron assembled.
Farseek can't grab Forest. Judge, yells chat. Does that mean there's an issue down there? Maybe we can check in down on the floor. Maybe we're too late to get them sorted. Did he not trigger Valakut as well? Can't Farseek for basic Forest, says everyone in chat.
And that's true. You cannot do that.
Nope. Plains, Island, Swamp, or Mountain. Another Reality Smasher hits the table. And a couple of Chalice of the Voids there for Sam Pardee.
So we should find out if someone down in the feature match area is looking into that. Or looks like it's too late now because game 1 is done. That Farseek, thanks all for catching that, but not something we can affect now because game number 1 is in the books and Sam Pardee has it. The Reality Smasher smashed, and that did it. Where are we going next? We're going to Table C. So reminder, standard in Table A, modern on Table B, where Pardee leads. We are going to Jacob Wilson against Paul Healy in Legacy. And we have a True Name Nemesis in play and a Deathrite Shaman and a Noble Hierarch for Jacob Wilson. And then I think it's fair to say it's an Elves deck on the other side of the table.
This is my favorite deck.
JVL's just glowing over
Really?
here.
Ever. Elves is so much fun, especially Legacy Elves. It's unbelievably complicated. I believe he had already cast a Glimpse of Nature at some point on this turn. So
Yeah, there's one in his graveyard, like 3 cards down there, so that looks very likely.
So what in the world is Elves doing?
in Legacy, Elves is a Glimpse of Nature combo deck where it plays Glimpse of Nature, which is a sorcery that says whenever you cast a creature spell, you draw a card.
Ooh, nice.
On this turn, obviously. And then you play a bunch of 1-mana creatures. You go through your deck very quickly. A lot of those creatures are able to produce mana the turn they come into play, thanks to cards like Birchlore Rangers and or Heritage Druid. And with Nettle Sentinel, a lot of those creatures can produce multiple mana. So sometimes you're just able to draw through your whole deck as early as the second turn. Then to boot as an additional combo plan, the deck is a Natural Order deck. And it uses Natural Order to sacrifice one of its creatures, and in doing so, it can search for something like a Progenitus, something like a Craterhoof Behemoth. And those cards just, essentially end the game by themselves.
Natural Order, one of my favorite cards to pick up in Cube.
Oh, absolutely. Do you like using it with Craterhoof Behemoth?
Craterhoof, get hoofed!
That's so good.
There's Progenitus. I mean, why not? Dryad Arbor in play back there for Healy as well.
So does Healy have both of those in the deck, Jake? Craterhoof and Progenitus?
I'm looking for his deck list, and it doesn't seem to be anywhere here.
Okay, sorry
So,
about that.
I'm sorry, but
Speaking of Natural Order, there it is. Let's find what he's see what he's going to find.
is this Natural Order resolving?
That's what I'm waiting to find out here.
This is a 5-mana Force of Will.
Wow, he paid full price.
What we jokingly refer to as the alternate cost on Force of Will.
Yeah.
Oh, it is, in fact, just the honest-to-God cost.
All right, so Natural Order will go down, falling to that Force of Will from Jacob Wilson. There, a look at Force of Will we talked about a little bit earlier in the broadcast. A card that some people refer to as a necessary evil in Legacy to stop decks from winning on turn 1. And as you can see, also doing what they want to do, casting cards like Natural Order. True Name Nemesis will swing in, dropping Healy down to 8.
And this is what we talked about before. Jacob Wilson, what his deck does is he, puts a threat onto the battlefield, and then he disrupts the opponent and messes with their game plan. while he just ticks away at their life total. And True Name Nemesis is so good at doing that because there's basically no way the opponent can interact with it unless they have, a card which might be very unique in the format, some type of board sweeping effect. And it just ticks away 3 damage at a time.
So talk to me just a little bit about, you mentioned at the top of this game, why Elves is such a difficult deck to play in Legacy.
Okay, so you have hundreds of options every single turn. Actual hundreds. The order in which you play your cards, the way your cards replace themselves, your ability to return creatures to your hand with cards like Wirewit Symbiote. There's a lot going on when you're playing Elves. Knowing when to go for a natural order or when to just flood the board with creatures and try to attack your opponent. The deck has so many angles, and it's almost impossible to play a game correctly with the Elf deck. I think the best Elves player in the entire world could play Elves and make 10 mistakes per game.
Another force of will here from Jacob Wilson, and that's a great point too, JVL, that Legacy seems like a format where you're trying so very hard to play perfectly, and yet it's so very difficult to do so.
Absolutely. And, that's one of the beautiful parts about Magic is that you can play beautifully and it's still, far from perfect. So there, Jacob Wilson able to win the game. Healey was at 7 life, and Jacob Wilson activated a Deathrite Shaman to exile an instant from a graveyard, and he was able to get Paul down to 5 doing that. And then on his turn, he would be able to attack with the True Name Nemesis and exile another instant and or sorcery from his graveyard, thus securing him the first game of the match.
All right, games to Jacob Wilson and Sam Pardee. Let's check in on Standard. Why, yes, Standard also going on today. Matt Nass versus Patrick Bradley. Some teamer action, which we expected this weekend.
Are you excited about an ultimate perhaps happening?
Ooh, I would love to see a Chandra emblem.
Ooh.
Do it, Matt Nass. We want to see it. Fireballs just to the face. Pew, pew, pew. There's a look at Chandra, Torch of Defiance in play. Her ultimate there, you get an emblem with whenever you cast a spell. This emblem deals 5 damage to target creature or player. Wonderful way to end the game, especially when your opponent is very near 5 life at 6.
Do you honestly imagine that pew, pew, pew is the sound effect for a fireball? I would want my money back if I'd learned how to do a fireball and that was the noise that came out of my right hand.
Pew, pew, pew. I mean, we don't know. We've only read about.
What is this? This isn't Buck Rogers in the 25th century. Biggie, 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 right on Buck. We're going to hang around here because this is one of the more interesting things going on in Standard right now. And Jake will be very sad with us if we go away without finding out whether we're going to see a Chandra emblem. So we'll hang fire for a little bit. We've already seen plenty of Pardee 1-up and Wilson 1-up. Let's see if Nass can complete the Game 1 sweep or whether Patrick Bradley can't get the underdogs underway. You see quite a lot of these matchups early in team events because usually the best players in the room have buys, 1, 2, or 3 in the case of the best players in the world. But at team events, there are no buys, which means everyone from World Champions, Platinum Pros, they're all at it from round number 1. So the reward for Bradley-Heninger-Healey for winning their first round is to play against one of the top 25 players in the world, a Pro Tour finalist in Jacob Wilson. And incidentally, Jake Healey playing Elves. Matt Nass won a Grand Prix playing Elves in California.
I remember that. I believe that was Matt Nass's tournament breakout experience.
Yeah. Or maybe it was Florida, Orlando, maybe. Oakland.
I believe
GP
it was
Oakland. Yeah,
it was,
2010.
Very close to where we are right now.
Yep. So he is a noted Elves player. I'm sure he'll have glanced across the table C and gone, oh, okay, you're playing that, are you? Good luck with that.
That was extended. And that very same weekend, I won a PTQ with Elves.
So have you just spent the last 10 minutes going, Elves is an incredibly complicated deck to play. Only the finest magicians are worthy of sleeving them up to win a PTQ like I did. That took a while. I'm impressed.
The long con.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't seen a Chandra ultimate just yet. Ticked up to 8. Oh, sad face. Cast out is going to deal with her on 8 loyalty. Just about every land in Matt Ness's deck in play.
So disappointed.
Yeah, I know. We were so close. But how about another one?
There we go.
It's going to get canceled there from Patrick Bradley.
Wow, no
Disallowed.
more action here from Matt. Crazy.
All right, approach of the second sun here from Bradley. Not sure if he's cast this already in the game. Guess not. There it goes, 7 down. Back over to Nass, who now has to be worried about what might be in store for him. And in fact,
It's like, yep.
yeah, is worried enough to just scoop him up.
So Bradley takes the lead there on table A. That's a little bit of standard. We will, of course, get you back to somewhere else, either Nass-Pardee against Heninger in Modern or Wilson against Healey. Let's find out. It's table B. That means we're in the center. And we are back for game number 2 of Nass-Pardee against Jason Heninger. And already we see plenty of Urza lands in play for Nass-Pardee. He's got a Pithing Needle out, saying Wooded Foothills.
Oh, interesting.
So this is the second time today we've seen this, Jake, where the activation that Pithing Needle is set to is designed to get rid of a land.
Yeah, and this is something that doing it blind is very rare, which is what we're seeing right now from Sam. But a lot of the time in a format like Legacy, when you're able to use cards like Jataxian Probe, preempting their fetch lands with Pithing Needle can be a really powerful play, especially if you have cards like Wasteland in your hand.
There's a look at Pithing Needle on your screen. A really nice, I would call it a toolbox card, JVL, because it's able to deal with a lot of different things in a format. It's kind of able to be whatever you need, whenever you need it.
Absolutely, a card with tremendous number of applications.
Here's a Thought-Knot Seer from Nass-Pardee, who is, of course, on Eldrazi Tron. Let's take a look here at Jason's hand. A Scape Shift, a Farseek, Primetime ×2 hiding out in his hand. What are you interested in?
So the Scape Shift is definitely the most dangerous card, but the Primeval Titans, do a lot of that work themselves. I like that Sam chose to just go ahead and take the Farseek. He's trying to prevent Heninger from having access to a Primeval Titan on, as the next turn or two.
Search for Tomorrow is going to come off Suspend. Jason finding a land. How do you like Pardee's position as it currently sits with that Matter Reshaper and that Thought-Knot Seer out on the table?
I think the Prismatic Omen is a looming doom, kind of, for Nass-Pardee, because if Heninger is able to cast so much as a single Primeval Titan, he can search for a pair of Valakut the Molten Pinnacle, and even though these Wooded Foothills do not search for lands, they tap for any color of mana, and they have all basic land types. So that Pithing Needle here, not doing a lot of work in that regard.
So Sam really has to get this one done as fast as humanly possible. Or Eldrazi possible.
Yeah.
In come the Thought-Knot Seer and the Matter Reshaper. And he's just going to pass the turn back over to Jason. Tick-tock, Pardee.
Deusis in chat says, Thought-Knot is like a weird Eldrazi Solemn Simulacrum. Yeah, it's like the Solemn Simulacrum, a 2/2 for a 4 mana. But I got you some advantage.
I believe that was an invitational card.
Yeah.
Thorns?
Wow.
Yeah.
Jens Thorns. Yeah, a lot of people, when they played the original of that, would actually go, Jens, as they cast it. That was certainly a thing back in a lot of years ago now.
And we did see Sam holding that Warping Whale in hand, and indeed, there we see it in play.
Wow. So Warping Well, using one of its lesser modes, created exactly 9 points of power on the table. The The Reality Smasher.
Smash!
Wow.
There we
Upgrades.
go.
Didn't we start this by going Reality Smasher smashes and wins the game for Pardee? I feel that that's what's just happened again. So the team of Nass-Pardee and Wilson go 1-0 up. We will head across to the Elves matchup. And the reason those green cards are facing that way is because Jacob Wilson is currently resolving a Fort Seize, meaning he's looking at Elvish Visionary, the beautiful Guy's Cradle, Nettle Sentinel, and a glimpse of nature. So here we are in game number 2 with Pardee already victorious over Heninger, but Bradley up on Nass. A reminder that if Wilson wins this game, it will be game, set, and match to the pro team of Nass-Pardee and Wilson.
Thoughtseize is going to take that glimpse of nature from Paul Healy there. By the way, our Thoughtseize counter currently up to 5 today.
Yeah, only in the second round. Looking like the over.
Yep. What did you say, 15?
I think I said like 12 or 13.
Get wrecked.
Yeah.
Get wrecked, get Kozilect.
If you ran like, that would be an Eldrazi-tron billboard right there.
Yeah.
Get Kozilect.
Yeah.
So is Jacob Wilson, just looking at this as someone who is newer to Legacy, interested in using that Wasteland as early as possible?
So he knows that Healy has Cradle in play.
Right.
Or Cradle in hand. And that's a really dangerous card. So he's probably going to want to use the Wasteland in response to Healy playing that third creature there. And that's going to mean that Healy will only be able to produce 2 mana with the Cradle on this turn.
So there is the utterly gorgeous Guy's Cradle, one of my favorite Magic cards of all time. Green for each creature you control.
Card from Standard, Fatal Push.
Who says we're not showing enough Standard?
Yeah, there we go, right there. Going to take care of that Heritage Druid.
Yeah, so the reason Jacob did it there in response to that second Nettle Sentinel is because in doing so, he could make it so that Paul Healy would only be able to tap the Cradle for 1 under threat of the Wasteland.
Elvish Visionary here for Paul. Going to draw him a card. Pass the turn back over to Wilson, who has a pretty full grip compared to Healy right now. And there you go, Wasteland activation taking down the Gaia's Cradle. In swings the Deathrite Shaman, going to exile it. Followed up by a True Name Nemesis, making some mana there off of the Shaman.
And here, both players down to, it looks like Healy is completely out of gas here. He has the, backup attack you with my elves plan from the elves deck. But Jacob Wilson has a Force of Will and a blue card in hand. I kind of like his odds.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's a combo right there. Force of Will and a blue card.
It's a combo that's been around for a very long time.
So talk to me a little bit about the difference between Legacy Elves and Modern Elves, a deck we might see this weekend. Is the difference just that Legacy has access to things like Natural Order and stupid stuff like that?
Yeah, so the Legacy Elf deck is really a combo deck. And while the Modern deck is like a combo aggro deck, where you're attacking with Azuri, making a bunch of mana, putting stuff in play, and attacking your opponent, the Legacy Elf deck is much different because it can actually do things like draw its entire library with Glimpse of Nature, or put a Craterhoof Behemoth into play via 1 card, which just wins the game out of nowhere. So the Legacy deck, much more a pure combo deck than just an aggro creature deck.
Ponder there for Jacob Wilson. Beautiful full art. In comes the True Name Nemesis. Ponder, I kind of think of it as like a little backwards brainstorm.
Yeah, one of the best card selection spells ever printed, Ponder, right there.
So a little fun from the feature match area. Matt apparently whispered to Sam, "I'm rooting for elves."
Excellent.
I love it.
The thing is, technically he can afford to, because if the Elves deck wins here, then Matt Nass can be the hero and win the match in Standard.
But here's the thing: when you love a deck in a certain format, you love it, even losing to it, because it's just you just grow such attachment to certain decks in certain formats.
Yeah, you certainly nod and go, Elves, good choice, good choice. And then at the end of the match, you talk about what basic lands you chose to play with, and all that kind of thing.
All right, we see a Force of Will there from Jacob Wilson on a Thoughtseize.
Yeah, taken away. So Jacob Wilson no longer has the Force of Will plus blue card combo.
Now he simply has the Force of Will, hope I draw a blue card combo.
Yes. Yeah, because he's not about to get up to 5 mana.
True Name Nemesis once again attacking there for Wilson. Abrupt Decay was his draw.
Wilson looked in pretty good shape here, Jake, earlier on, but it's starting to look like the Elves deck is really kind of putting some pressure on here. I don't know, 11 to 8, getting a bit tighter.
Yeah, and I mean, this is one of the great parts about the Elf deck. Wilson had an answer to every part of the combo, to all the cards that quote-unquote matter. And Paul Healy even drew quite a few more lands than he would have liked to. But as an Elf deck, he's simply able to, churn out this advantage and just start attacking with his creatures.
Right, and these creatures, which we would call grizzly bears, that means a 2 power, 2 toughness for 2 mana, they're just bigger than the Deathrite Shaman on the other side. True Name Nemesis doesn't want to be getting in the way. So it turns out that Nettle Sentinel, which is in the deck for all the text on it, rather than the 2 and 2, is doing just pretty nicely as 2/2.
Yeah, Nettle Sentinel is one of the most important combo pieces when you're playing cards like Birchlore Rangers and Heritage Druid.
And there we saw Green Sun Zenith finding this Scavenging Ooze for Paul Healy.
Ooh, and this is a nice silver bullet for Paul Healy. This card is going to let him interact pretty favorably with graveyards, and it's going to allow him to gain very important life to win this race against the True Name Nemesis.
Jacob Wilson didn't have a blue card in hand to go with that Force of Will to be able to do anything about that Green Sun Zenith. 6 to 8. Abrupt Decay on the Ooze.
Now, one thing that's interesting here is that Jacob is choosing to use the Abrupt Decay on the Scavenging Ooze before activating his Deathrite Shaman. And that means that if Paul Healy tries to exile a card from the graveyard, that he could actually exile it instead with the Deathrite Shaman. He may instead just choose to exile an instant or sorcery because it nets him more damage, but just giving himself more options there.
Yeah, he's going to exile that Heritage Druid in the end. Another Deathrite Shaman joining the party. In comes a True Name Nemesis. Deathrite Shaman in and of itself, good, helping you cast your spells, helping you gain life if you need to, but also helping you close out the game potentially.
Absolutely, and these two Deathrite Shamans, with their ability to gain and or drain, put Paul Healy in a situation where he's dead next turn, basically no matter what.
Wow.
Yep, and so that is going to do it here, because Matt Nass, who was 1-0 down against Patrick Bradley, he was rooting for Elves, kind of, but that did not impact the match in any way at all, shockingly enough. Jacob Wilson wins 2-0 over Paul Healy. Nass-Pardee very quickly won his modern match 2-0 over Jason Henninger, which means we are done with our main match here in round number 2. There you see the feature match area, and what we're going to do is take a short break, and then we will go right back to the start of this round and bring you the whole of the back match action, which includes the Superstar Hall of Famer, Mr. Paul Rietzel. Don't you go anywhere. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.